This podcast is brought to you by Infinite Resources, a local staffing agency connecting diverse job candidates in central Iowa companies.
Amplified.
Welcome back to Black and Privileged in America podcast. I'm your host, Abena Sankofa, and I am excited to welcome a guest into our virtual studio today. Typically we do in person, but we've got the great fortune to be virtual. Today's guest is someone I already adore and admire, a warm and brilliant presence whose words are a gift to readers, young and old. Amina Luqman-Dawson is the award-winning author of Freewater, a stunning middle grade novel that earned her both the Newbery Medal and the Coretta Scott King Author Award, making her the first Black woman in history to receive both honors for the same book. Amina is a policy expert turned literary powerhouse whose writing brings hidden Black histories into full view with imagination and heart and power. We first met during the Avid series, a Des Moines Public Library event, and I have been rooting for her ever since. So in today's episode, we will talk about Freewater, freedom. Both the kind that we're born into and the kind we make for ourselves. So let's get into it. Welcome, Amina.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Abena. It's wonderful. It's been great to be able to see you again.
I am so glad that you're here. So much is happening right now, and I know that we won't get to cover everything, but I want to cover as much as possible. First, I want to just start out by bringing forward Freewater. It's a book. I have it here. I'm so happy. I have this book. I actually have two copies. one that I let people pick up and touch, and then this one that no one gets to touch except me. Yeah. The public and the private, right? So Freewater, it's a really lovely story about and lovely. I mean, that's an interesting word that I chose, but it is. It's a lovely story.
Like that?
Yeah, thank you. Right? About escaping bondage from the perspective of a child and building something that feels free, that is free. So what was your personal or creative moment? Did you have a personal or creative escape moment that made you decide to write this story?
Well, I'll be very honest with you. When this story hit me, and the idea came from me some 20 years ago, 20 years before it was ever published. And it hit me like a bolt of lightning. And I was just trying to toy around with ideas about stories for children that I might consider writing. And I considered a few things. But I'd learned about Maroons and the concept of Maroons, which just for your listeners and viewers, Maroons are enslaved Africans that were taken, that found ways to escape into the wilderness and live free but clandestine lives, right? And so that the concept of maroonage you can find in almost any place throughout the Americas where there were enslaved people. And so I learned about them, particularly those in South America, Brazil, and in the Caribbean in college. And I remember when I learned, my mind was blown. I was like, oh my gosh, there are these people that managed to live in the wilderness, and that, enslaved folks that self-emancipated and created their whole lives in the wilderness. And I just thought it was amazing. And so I remember when I walked out of my college course having that information, I just wanted to shout it to the world. I wanted everyone to know about this because I had never heard of it. And of course, then you forget those things. But it planted a seed in me, apparently, because I'm sitting up years later just thinking about children's stories I'd like to write. And it hit me like a bolt of lightning. And I could see it quite clearly. It was two children escaping enslavement. And we first see them when they are in the wilderness. And then they discover this clandestine community, which I later called Freewater. And so I have to admit that that's where my original sort of inspiration came from, this sort of college course that I thought, you just think you learn these things and they go away, but they don't. All these things that you learn just kind of stay with you, and then they pop out in ways that you never know. And so that's what inspired me to start. Now, what's inspired me to keep going and to finish the book some 10 years after that was that I had a son, and having my son and knowing that he would be introduced to the topic of enslavement and in the ways that I didn't know. I mean, in school and however, and I wanted to make sure that he was introduced to it in a way that I wanted. And so that's really what inspired me to keep going and finish.
I am so encouraged by the conversations that you have with your son. Like, that to me says a lot about what we could be, the kinds of things that we could be talking to our children about, that we should be talking to our kids about. How do you balance that with the present context of our country? So just for our listening audience, at the time of this interview, we have protests that are emerging in California, in Texas, and places around the country that are against, that they're protesting the way that ICE is coming into communities and kind of sweeping up people with immigrant backgrounds. How do you introduce those kinds of conversations to your children? And what does it mean to be a creative in this time?
That is so good. I appreciate your asking that, and that I think when we are in extraordinary times right now, and when you hit those extraordinary times and you have a young child, which at the time when I was writing, my son, he was when I first started, he was maybe 3 or 4, but I wanted to be able to explain things that I knew would be difficult, but in ways that would speak his language. And so that's why literature is so important. And so as I look at what's going on in the world now and trying to find ways to kind of communicate with our kids, like both, because some mornings I feel like the world's falling apart. I feel like, I don't know about you, but
I mean, certainly the world as we know it does seem to be crumbling.
Like, it feels like this crumbling, and you feel as though, what can I do to sort of hold on to it? What can I do to kind of make it right? And how bad is this going to get? And so all those sorts of scary things are sort of present for us as adults, and wanting our kids to kind of key into it. Yes, we have these conversations, but I really did find that using my work to talk about hard topics was the key for me. And that's why I hoped when I wrote Freewater that others would look at it and say, oh, we want to share this history. We know, all African Americans know, and anybody else, hopefully, if you're not African American, should also know that that the time of enslavement in this country was both. It is the root of the root. It is the you could trace a lot of what's going on right now right back to the history this country has with enslavement. And it is the root of the root, the bud of the bud. And when as we get further and further away from it, it gets harder and harder to see how those lines connect, right? And so for me, I'm like, I want, like other parents out there, like, I want to be able to share this history with our kids, but it is hard history. Awful things happened. Awful. And how do you share awful things with your kids? And you want them to know that the system was hurtful, but you don't want to hurt them as you're trying to tell them about the system.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Like how and so for me, that was Freewater was the key. The Freewater was my way of saying, this is hard history, but I'm going to speak it to you in such a way that it is going to speak your language, a child's language. And it's going to communicate both childlike things that are like, excitement, thrills, but it's going to communicate deep things as well. It's going to communicate a sense of humanity and allowing you to see the people that were impacted as you are. And then as soon as you're able to do that, as soon as you're able to connect and be like, wow, they're just kind of like, it could be me. Like, that could be me. Then you can have a real discussion and and see people like you would see today on television being snatched up by ICE, and you see them with true senses of empathy. And once you have that empathy as a child, that means that one, you will be less likely to accept anything that will further hurt people like this. And two, it will make you more likely to want to act. out on their behalf. And so that's what I hope, as we talk to kids today, finding ways that we can find connection and that we can find an ability to see people fully and understand that that could be me. And for Black folks, it could be you anytime, right? And so, and once you have that connection, hopefully feeling that, I can stand up for those people as well.
I so appreciate that sense of connection, finding that common humanity we have with others is so important. And I feel like this book, as well as just the presence you have, it emanates like this collective memory, recovering that memory, and it about not just taking up space, but owning the space that we're in, and really just establishing our humanity in those spaces. And although the work, once you read the story, it's a delightful story, but like you said, it's heavy topics. So how do you stay grounded as an author? How did you stay grounded and even find some joy as you were writing?
That's a great question. Oh my goodness. Okay, first and foremost, I always felt that I am talking to children. I'm not talking to adults. And sometimes I feel like when we write our history, it's easy to start talking to adults because we have so much that has been unsaid, so much that has been unrecorded, so much that has been overlooked that you almost feel, and I feel this right now as I'm writing my second story, overwhelmed with what you want to teach. So I want to teach to you these things. Please don't forget them, please. And so I find that it's easy to start to want to preach to the kids, especially in historical fiction, which is where I play. That's my playground for my work. It's easy to be like, listen, this is an important person that lived, and you got to know about that person.
Right.
And this is an important thing that happened, and you got to know about that. And you got, and so that is always like we said, like, how do you do this? It's like, and it's for me to always remember that I'm talking to a child, and hopefully through a child's voice, and allow myself to first and foremost entertain and excite. That is it. I firmly believe that if you don't like a book, like I'm an entertainer as a kid, if they don't feel attracted to my work, they can keep it moving, walk on and get another book. And so I'm constantly feeling like as I'm working, like, have I lost them? God, oh no, wait, and, get them, make sure I hold them, I grab them, I keep them. And so you'll see that as I write it. Hopefully you'll see it as you read the book too. It's sort of like, okay, here's another cliffhanger. Okay, here's another exciting turn. Okay, here's another exciting turn. So that at no point do they feel like, ugh, okay.
Right. So I kind of feel like your book could be the next mini series, like Roots almost, because of those cliffhangers. There's so many of those where I can see like a commercial break being inserted. And then you got to sit there and wait for the next part. I would love that.
Thank you for saying that. Put that in the universe. Thank you. But I just felt like, so that first and foremost, like you said, like it has to feel like almost cinematic to me, that can I accomplish that? So that's the first thing. But then also too, like once you do that, sort of creating characters that feel the full complement of emotion. So like, I know these were very difficult times that we're talking about, but people didn't stay sad every day, all day, especially children. I always say, like, if you go to Gaza right now in the midst of the awfulness that is happening there, and I assure you, you can find a couple of kids trying to figure out a way to make up a game. They'd be like, listen, okay, you go to that little, here's this terrible little, from this like terrible bomb site to that terrible bomb site, that's base one, and then that's base two, like kids can't help themselves. Kids can't help but want to be in a moment sometimes, and because they're kids. And so once you do that, once you, I think, have full range of children, then the joy is there. It's like nobody can live their lives like every day without it. You wouldn't survive. And so highlighting those moments and allowing yourself to decenter what the powers that be are doing. And so that's cool for me. I was very lucky in that the concept of maroons, and that's why I use this concept very clearly. It's a tool. It's not, I mean, you might come out of the story and be like, oh, I learned so much about maroons and that's, I guess, I don't know, that's cool. But that was not my point. My point in using maroons was that it allowed you this safe space because you're in this clandestine free community where you both have in real time big awful things happening. Hard history is happening. There is enslavement all around them. They are a small island encircled by plantations and enslavement. But it allows you in that safe space to see the characters, and especially these children, just be children. And each of those characters is in fact impacted in their own way by where they are, by that larger context. But that doesn't mean that they aren't living moments of extraordinary joy, extraordinary challenges of their own, not because they're being victimized, but just of their own, because kids create their own junk. They're just kids. And they're living these lives that are not centered around being victimized. But it's not far from it's not that it's not talked about, but it is not centered. And so it allows joy to happen, and it allows it to happen, I think, in a more holistic, kind of authentic way, as opposed to being like, okay, now this is going to be a happy moment in the middle of terribleness.
It's so beautiful how you put that. And I'm always thinking about like the emotional economy of Black life. What does that cost us? And there certainly is love as well as that joy, that very, very evident
That's
love and joy.
Love.
Yeah, there's some love that is interwoven throughout every single line of Freewater. And how did you channel that into the characters? I know it may be similar to the joy, but how did you channel that love? Because I feel like in my experience as a writer, love can be a little bit challenging to write about if it's not poetry, right? So how did you channel that into your characters?
That's a great question. Wow. A few things are true. One is that as I wrote these characters, I personally love them. Honestly, I personally love them. Like, I don't know how to explain that in a way that I don't know if you understand that. But, and so as I wrote them, I felt as though I wanted them to be seen. Like, once you love somebody, right? That's what you want. You just want them to be seen. Like, how can I create moments where you see them for who they are? And they're not going to necessarily be perfect. Hopefully, they're not even perfect. They are just who they are. And we accept that. And then two, I like being able to explore through the characters all these different concepts of love, like what that looks like, right? And that's more just the artistic side. So like Sanzi, who is my character, who was born and raised in the Freewater, the maroon community. So she's never known enslavement. She's never even been outside of that community, because the one rule, and it's the rule of love, the one big rule in Freewater is if you're born in Freewater, you can never leave, because the children of Freewater are the most important thing. They are the reason for being in a lot of ways. And so it's that love, it's that community love for those children that makes it so you cannot go. So you have this Sansi character who she is a born adventurer. That is just how she came out. She came out of the womb. She's just like, I want to see what's over that next hill. I want to see what's over. I want to go.
She's one of my favorite characters. Yeah.
You know her. So
yes.
And it creates trouble, right? She creates trouble because she constantly trying to figure out what's over the next hill. And it's like, no, you can't go over that next hill. She has no concept that the full self she's been able to be in Freewater would not be accepted outside of Freewater. And so there's her. And then there's her mother, who loves her, right? I mean, she loves her. Mrs. Light only sees love, in fact. But the love as it plays out for her, and between the two of them, it's contentious, because of course Mrs. Light is like, you can't leave. this is your world. You stay and you follow the rules. And because she loves her, that is why she's like, I'm trying to protect you. And Sanzi being like, no, I need to go. I need to see the world. And so it's interesting to watch, because to see how that love plays out, or the love between Billy and Sanzi, because Sanzi is wanting to leave, and Billy, who escaped to Freewater, is her best friend, and he's never wanting to leave Freewater. And so it's a very interesting pieces. I love that.
Certainly, I'm encouraging everybody to get a copy of Freewater. Read this book. Oh. Read this book with your children. Get it for your kids. And I know that our time is coming to an end, but I want to squeeze in 2 more questions. The children are the main characters in Freewater. They're clever. They're brave. They have complexities. There's some contradictions, and they are leaders. I absolutely appreciate all of those qualities. And you could have made the adults the heroes or the main focal point, but you didn't. And I think that is such a beautiful thing. I'm going to fast forward a little bit to the fact that you received, as I said in the intro, the Newbery Medal and the Coretta Scott King Award, 2 of the highest honors in children's literature. And you're the first Black woman to get both honors for the same book. So what did those honors, that recognition, teach you? What did you learn about yourself or this process since receiving those honors?
Oh my goodness. Well, I have that's a deep question for me right now. Because I'm still learning what I'm learning. I'm still kind of in it a little bit. I'm forever grateful that I won those awards. They came mostly as a shock. It's funny because when you write a book like this, and I didn't understand this beforehand, it's like Freewater is my baby. I have my son, I have 1 child, and then I have Freewater. So it is my baby. And so with any child that you have, you wish that they could go off and be okay in the world, right? That's when they arrive, you're like, you imagine that they might do wonderful things, but do you feel like they're going to do those things? No. So
You're hoping, know. Yeah.
You're hoping that it'll do something that people will connect. So I hope that people would connect with the work. But I have to admit, it was extraordinary when it actually happened. Like it's extraordinary, and in a good way, it has allowed me to do things like this. Like, these are thoughts. What I'm saying to you now, each of those things that I've just said in this interview, these are things that I was thinking as I was writing the work. That and more. Like, I could talk for a long time, forever. And so as you're writing, you start having these thoughts that you want to be able to communicate with the world. And I get that chance. I literally get to go and give speeches and share what I was thinking, the why behind what's out there. And that is a huge privilege. That is a dream. And then I get to be with the children and I actually get to see their responses to the work. That is number 1. And so I've been so fortunate. And those have been the wonderful things about it. And I will take that with me for the rest of my life. I will never forget this experience in that way. On the other hand, though, I do think it's challenged me because you learn things about yourself, right? Like, I remember, I think we were talking about, like, maybe it was Michelle Obama talking about being a president or something like that. And she was like, it not only, whoever you are is who you are, but once you become president, you become more of that person.
Yeah,
like
more of yourself. Yeah.
Yes, it's not, you don't change. It's just you, but now you got more of you. And so in a similar way, I think after the recognition, I started just to realize both my strengths and some of my challenges, my weaknesses. And one of them, I think, as I've been working on my next work, is this feeling of like wanting to show up perfect, like wanting to always show up perfectly. And I think that it has made it really hard for me to like do my next work. It's like, oh my God, you want to show up perfectly. And somehow I feel like, I guess since Freewater got so much attention and so many awards, like that must have been perfect. And so how do you do something that's perfect again? And I think that is something that I'm growing up in this process as well. I'm just growing up to learn what it's like to be a writer. Because I wrote Freewater. Well, would I have called myself a writer before that? I don't know. I was just writing the book that I wanted to write. And so I think doing it professionally and both creating and communicating with others and balancing that and balancing my life, all those things have come to me in a real way, which if I had won the Newbery or not, probably, or, Coretta Scott King or not, it probably would have been the same thing. But I think it's just hyper, it's just even bigger because I, I was sort of forced into, yeah, not forced, placed into it wonderfully, but in a way that I'm like, whoa, I think it's another stage of just growing.
I am, on behalf of every reader, I'm so grateful that you gave us Freewater, that we can have the opportunity to be a part of this world. For many of us who experience the legacies of enslavement and what it means to be free, as a part of our family story, this gives us a lens through which maybe we wouldn't have seen ourselves. And so I want to say thank you for allowing us this opportunity to be immersed in this world. My last question to you is actually finish the sentence, kind of a fill in the blank. Considering this book, this amazing book, Freewater, and then considering, you mentioned the children in Gaza, the people suffering all around the world, in our own country, what's happening in the United States and in other places, all of the things that are occurring right now. Amina, freedom looks like.
Whew. Freedom looks like, that's a good question. I think freedom looks like your ability to go through the world feeling respected and seen. And and freedom looks like being able to pick up the book you want on the bookshelf in your local library. Freedom is being a teacher, being able to share the book you want with your students in a public school. Freedom is being able to have control over an autonomy over your body, if you should need to or choose to terminate a pregnancy. Freedom is being able to show up and vote without having to prove in a million ways that it's some sort of privilege and not just a right. I mean, so yeah, I mean, being able to fully bring yourself into the world and be respected. Freedom is being able to love who you love and not have it judged, nor erased by the military or by society or by whatever. But these are things, and so these are hard times, and I think we are certainly learning that freedom is fought for, and that it comes at price. And I It's funny because my initial reaction it's always been, my work is in some ways, because my next book is historical as well. My next book, I want to definitely delve into hard history, Black history particularly. And it doesn't matter, okay, that what the climate is out here. This is just what I want to say to the world. This is what I want it to be heard, and I want it to be respected. You don't have to like it, but and so freedom is being able to do that. But also now I'm also just learning and realizing that the way I, when I wrote Freewater, I sequestered myself and I just went into my own little thing, and I did that is particularly when I was really into it for a lot of it, for a couple of years there. But it's not possible to do that now, as I do this next work. So some of our freedoms have been taken. We have to go out there and fight for the freedoms in order to, I'm like, I have my second book and it's hard and it's to sort of create again. But in order to keep those freedoms, I have to be able to say like, and help fight for them and let folks know out there who are dealing with these issues, be it ICE coming or books being banned by ICE, by your local school board, that we as authors, me as myself, I'm still out here. I'm still going to help fight with you all and call on me. If I can ever be of assistance, I certainly want to be.
Thank you. Amina Luqman-Dawson, author of Freewater and all around incredible human. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Abena, for having this. I appreciate your questions and just your insightful ways. Thanks.
This is Black and Privileged in America podcast, power, love, and money conversations relevant to Black thriving. Stay engaged, stay curious, keep striving. Thanks for listening. Until next time.